So he landed this overhand and then a few more shots, and from that point everything went south for Tyson. There was a big problem for Jake to balance entertaining the crowd and not hurting Mike. I think personally that this fight was partially scripted, and the biggest problem for Mike Tyson in this fight were his legs. I don't think that we need more fights like this. What's up guys, today we're taking a look at the Iron Mike Tyson taking on the problem child Jake Paul. Unfortunately this fight didn't end how we all wanted it to, so Mike wasn't able to knock out the child. But although the show wasn't that entertaining, we still can learn some strategies from both guys, and that's what we're going to do to improve our own understanding of boxing. If you're new here, my name is Andriy Khotin and I'm a former amateur boxer and active coach from Ukraine. On this channel we help boxers level up their game. And at first let's take some look at stats. And the first what comes to our side is that Mike is 57 and he's 58 actually, and I guess that's just an old picture. And Jake is 27, so 31 years of difference in age, and that's just crazy. And that's why Mike lost this fight, because he is not in the best condition. Then we also got experience, so Mike had 58 fights and Jake had only 10 at that point. Then another big factor will be height, so you can see that Jake is much taller than Mike, so we can already make conclusion about the styles that they will use. Mike will as always go inside and try to finish him at the close distance, and Jake will just keep the distance, move around and keep Mike at the long distance. And then the most important stat is Insta followers, because that's the actual key to victory of Jake Paul, because he got enough money and popularity to convince the retired legend fight. And you can see that Mike stays in a more squared stance, he is almost fully frontal, and Jake has a more bladed position. And they take this stance first of all so Mike can go inside, he can move his head to the sides quickly and take quick steps forward and also create angles, because he's an infighter. And then Jake keeps his foot apart so he can go on his back foot, run away, and he can also keep Mike at his lead hand and not get him close. That's their tactics. And at the beginning of the fight, Jake wasn't throwing any punches at Mike. Although he got to the center of the ring, he almost immediately started running back from Mike, and I guess there are a few reasons for that. First of all, he was a bit scared. Of course, the guy is old, but he still can hit hard as Then the second reason is that he wanted Mike Tyson get tired early, because that's what you want to do against a retired boxer. So after he gets out, you may turn him in a punching bag. And then there is the third factor, and it is that I think personally that this fight was partially scripted, so they knew that Mike wasn't in the best condition and they didn't want to frustrate the crowd, so they let Mike hit Jake, so everyone at the arena was entertained. And yeah, that's why they did this. Then apart from blocking and running, Mike of course was cutting off corners and was able to get Jake on ropes and hit him there a few times, but not too many times, because Jake would immediately clinch him. And yeah, that's a smart move, first of all to get safe, and second of all to get Mike Tyson tired. That's why he was clinching pretty often at the beginning of the first round. Then of course Mike used his old school combinations. He threw the jab to the body and then went up top with a right overhand, but he was a little bit too slow for Jake, that's why it didn't connect very clean and Jake was able to dodge that. Then of course Jake started throwing some punches at Mike and he was missing a lot, and Tyson had a great success with dodging punches, but those were single punches, that's why that was easy for Mike. And Jake was punished for missing this one jab almost immediately with Mike Tyson's own jab. And look at the position, you can see Jake Paul falling back, and from this you can tell that Mike still got his power, so Jake has to be careful and not miss that carelessly. So he stepped in with the jab, didn't move back quickly and got punished for that. Then a little bit further in the first round, Jake started throwing body shots and they worked just perfectly for him. Look, Mike Tyson moves his head like this. It's really hard to catch him with a headshot, because he's very mobile, but he can't move all his body with that speed. So when he moves his head, his midsection is at the same spot, and Jake started throwing cross to the body and jab to the body all the time, and that worked pretty good because first of all it disrupted the rhythm, and then second of all it made Tyson react to those punches. After the reaction, Jake started throwing jab to the body, and then he would go up top with an overhand to hit Mike Tyson, and that worked perfectly, and Mike's reflexes weren't that fast, so he got hit a few times. And then the second way to set that up, painting jab to the body, then Mike would drop his guard to block the punch, and then Jake would hit him with a lead hand, basically with the lead hook. And yeah, what Mike could have done is, for example, here he could block this punch with elbows, then shoot. So that would be a good counter, but yeah, he obviously didn't have speed for that. And the biggest problem for Mike Tyson in this fight were his legs, because he couldn't set up his feet, and yeah, he moved his head well, he threw some solid punches, but without footwork he wasn't able to reach. And yeah, there were only 3 ways for him to get to Jake Paul. First of all, he could have gone close by himself, so as he did in the first and second round. Right from the bell, he was getting close, get Jake on ropes, and then hit him there. But Jake would just tie him, clinch, and that would just make Tyson spend a lot of energy and didn't give a lot of results. And then there's the second way. Wait until Jake attacks you and then counter him instead of just blocking and dodging. So Tyson can like block one punch, dodge another, and then shoot. When Jake steps in, he gets in Mike's range, and Mike is able to connect. For example, you can see on this picture how Mike hits him, but Jake was focused and kept his guard up, so didn't get hit cleanly. And the third way to cut the distance from Mike is when they both go forward at each other. So he could use simultaneous counters. For example, Jake throws the jab and Mike step in with the jab to the body of his own. So those could be the 3 ways for him to work, but of course, because of the physical condition, he couldn't realize them. So I think he knows that stuff, his team knows that, but his body wouldn't listen to him. And here you can see a clean overhand from Jake, and that was at the beginning of the third round. So in the first round and the second, Mike would go to the center of the ring really fast and then go straight forward and rush at Jake, and Jake would just go back. But in the third round, Paul adjusted his tactics and he decided to meet Tyson with fire. So he landed this overhand and then a few more shots, and from that point everything went south for Tyson. Then another thing that Jake did pretty well was using his lead hand to disrupt Mike's rhythm. So when he threw just jabs to the head, he would miss with single jabs, but then he started throwing punches to his gloves, to his chest, to his shoulders, to his body, and that disrupted his rhythm, and that gave him an opportunity to set up other punches. For example, he would throw double jab just to touch Tyson to the chest, and then he would throw right hand, and the right hand would connect, and that worked perfectly for Jake. So take a note, when you fight a shorter fighter, aim at their upper chest first and then go to the head. And even without legs, Mike Tyson was able to still dodge a lot of punches, but the problem was that he was moving back as he dodged and blocked punches, and when he moved back in his squared stance, he would drop his hands and he got caught off balance while exiting. So when you're fighting in the peekaboo stance, you're really good at moving forward, moving to the sides, but when you have to go back, you're a bit slower, and yeah, you can get caught. And Jake threw a 3-punch combo, he missed, and then he connected with 2 lead hands, and here's one of them. And as I said before, the only moments of success for Tyson were when Jake stepped in with his attacks and he wasn't focused. So Jake just threw a punch or 2, got close, dropped his guard, and then Tyson punished him. And just look at this picture, Tyson looks like a beast, and you can clearly see that Jake is hurt from this punch, and it takes some spirit and strength to take this and to throw this too. So it's clear that both guys went through some serious training camp, And if you want to go through a serious training camp yourself, check out the KO boxing package, which is my training program, which includes boxing workouts, strength and conditioning plan, a lot of tips, and a private community with all the members. First link in the description, and we're moving further. In this episode, Jake threw the left hook. Mike blocked it with his right hand and replied with the left hook of his own, and he connected on Jake's neck, and that hurts quite a bit, telling from experience. But Jake started showing his tongue just to playing around and saying, okay, that didn't hurt me, give me some more, Mike. And that was just to play around with the crowd and just to make Tyson angry, to make him show what he's got. And from that point the fight went in the same manner, so it was very boring because Mike gassed out, so Jake just would go there, keep his range, hit Mike, get out, and then just let Michael rest so he's not hurt too much. So there was a big problem for Jake to balance entertaining the crowd and not hurting Mike. But of course there is nothing but respect from Jake to Mike. And let's take a look at some stats. So Paul outlanded Mike in every single round, but judges gave the first 2 rounds to Mike because he dealt more damage. And that's pretty true because even his jabs can be considered as power punches. So overall it is more or less as I expected. It's partly script, it was boring, and I don't think that we need more fights like this, but it still was fun to see Mike Tyson fight and learn a little bit from his experience. If you enjoyed watching this video and you found it helpful, I recommend you watch this one right here, so you can see me analyzing my own amateur fight. Thanks for watching and stay sharp!